I think I lost the red texter. The red one.
Oh, the red one just put back.
Ah.
Oh, they're just there, bro.
No, I only use red because Lil can't read any other colour. Alright. So, based off what Brando was saying, I apparently teach bench press a little bit different. So, take whatever you can, make yourself better, pass it on to if you're a coach, pass it on. So yeah, what I do need though is I need one person to bench. One person other than Lily, because I'm not going to help her.
Jack.
Because she's already perfect.
Nah, far from it. Anyone. It doesn't matter who it is. Cool, man. How'd you pull up?
Oh, pretty good.
Pretty good? Not so sore? Back is all good?
Yeah.
Cool. Beautiful. So, everyone here is GPC Kappa? There's no RPF PA guys or girls here? No? I love that everyone's just like, nah. All right. So all of us bench. Does everyone bench on their toes? He's not listening. Everyone bench on their toes? Flat foot? Flat foot? Cool.
Some are flat foot, majority are on the toes.
Cool. All right. So we can do both. So I think the best coaches make really complicated things sound really simple, right? So I'm hoping this for you is like, oh, cool. That wasn't that much time. Cool. Where it starts with, if I get you to lay down for me, brother. For me, don't even worry about your feet right now, right? For where it starts with is where you grip the bar, right? You hear a lot of people talk about gripping the bar as hard as you possibly can. A big difference for myself, right? In my hand position, which travels down to your elbow position, which is important for where you're touching with the bench press, is putting the bar in the right spot, right? So I got pretty big meat hooks, right? So I'm a bit lucky, right? Where I'm trying to place the bar is in the meatiest part of the hand, right? It'll force you to torque out a little bit though, right? But you always see the cue to turn yourself in, right? So we're trying to bend that bar that way, right? Not holding it straight and turning it in, right? Meatiest part of the hand. Some people use a diamond and then spread their hands out, but this is how we start. So just grip the bar for me, brother. Cool. Just open. And what I want you to do is just turn. And if you can see, that's now on the widest part of his hand. The bigger the base, right, the more I'm going to be able to draw power production from, right? Cool. The second thing is then the grip. I'm not good at this because I get a little lazy, right? But tension in your hands should obviously be all the way across, right? But we're trying to negate anything through the pec and bicep as much as we can. So we're trying to stabilize through the tricep and lats, okay? The thinking then is that you're pushing the hardest through your pinky and ring finger, right? So squeezing all the way across, but really focusing on these two fingers. Cool? So squeeze until they change color. Cool? So you can let go, brother. The next part, we need to put ourselves in the most advantageous position possible, right? To be able to move the bar from point A to point B. Because with the majority of us bench on our toes, the logical reasoning then is to obviously enable as much thoracic extension as we possibly can. If any of this doesn't make sense, put your hand up, cool? Because I'm just gonna reel off, and if I reel off, I don't stop. So just tell me to shut up or change, right? So thoracic extension is just obviously extension through his upper back. We're trying to accentuate through the upper back, not through the lower back, right? So up through here. So it's important to not negate any of your prehab rolling, any of your prehab health around your upper back work. Cool? I'm not going to get into the prehab stuff. That's not my wheelhouse, yeah? My wheelhouse is making the most of your technique and making the most of your programming as quick as I can. Cool? So creating thoracic extension, how am I going to do that? Okay, particularly with the up on the toes bench. How would I do that? Any ideas? Coaches? Sorry, darling?
Traps into the bench and chest.
Sure. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create as much hip extension as possible though, right? Because it starts from the hips, it starts from the position of the feet. The more that I can get the toes back towards the bench, the greater the extension through the hip. Does that make sense? Cool? Cool. So show me how you'd normally set up the bench press. So you just, cool. And that's as far as you can get your foot back?
Can I go back further?
Cool, so relax for me. Try this, let your feet out. Cool, come a little bit further back. Cool. Plant your feet just as close to the bench as possible, right? Grip the bench. Plant your toes. Extend forward. Don't move your feet yet, yeah? Now just holding it there. I'm gonna hold the bar for you, yeah? Right? So now by default, we're now in a position where we've created more extension. We've shortened the range, because this is competition lift, right? We've now shortened the range and made the most of the transition, right? The hard part is coming soon. This is all easy. This is all quick wins for us, okay? You can relax. The next part, as we're holding position through extension, particularly as the bigger guys, right? The hardest thing for me is obviously getting to that position, right? And to keep everything switched on, because there's a fucking lot going on, right? So as I am creating extension through the bench, through my hips, and through my thoracic spine, right? I'm squeezing my glutes, and I'm pushing my knees out, right? I'm creating torque into the ground to be driven up the bench to create tension. Cool? If my glutes are on, the X sling in my lower back is on, and I'm in a safer position, a more stable position. Because the reality is, the better you can be stable, the more you're gonna be able to put into your training, right? And then to get stronger that way, right? Strength through stability. Cool? Relax for me, brother. Take a breath. One more breath. Cool. Get into position for me. Beautiful. Take the bar out. How you would normally do it in a composition, right? And just hold it there. Cool. What didn't he do when he took the bar out? Cool. Put the bar back. Relax. The next part is the breathing, the bracing part, okay? If you watch me squat, or if you watch anyone that I coach squat, if you watch Brandon squat, what does he do before he takes the bar out? He sucks all the air in he possibly can. Yeah? The more air in my diaphragm, the harder, the tighter the brace, the greater, well, from a squats perspective, the tighter I can create internal rotation of my hip and switch my abs on, right? So a cue you'll hear from myself, right, is to fill, right? So we're gonna fill through the nose, and then when we can't feel any more from the nose, we're gonna suck air in through the mouth, right? So I need you to be aggressive with your breathing. So I need to hear you breathe in aggressively and stay tight. Cool?
Yep.
Cool. So breathe all the way in and a little bit through your mouth. Cool, because you can suck in a little bit more through your mouth after. And now hold your breath and take the bar out. Cool. Just hold, and he's holding his breath. Cool. Bar back for me, brother. That motion, what happens with his upper back? What happens with his lats? The lock in. Lock in how though? Lock in how? Yeah, cool. So what does that movement look like to you? If I'm taking the bar out? Yeah, so but what does that, if I was to just do that in the air, what does that look like? From an exercise selection perspective? A pull over, yeah? So I'm trying to pull the bar over or out, straight out, hinge out, to be able to engage my lats. Because this is not meant to be a pec exercise. Optimally speaking, because we work in optimal, right? I'm pulling the bar out, I'm driving my armpits to pockets, elbows to knees, right? And I'm bracing and pulling my shoulders back. Yeah? Again. Beautiful. Wonderful. And just touch once for me. And press. Good. One more. Right, and rack it for me. What do you notice, right? What do you notice about the position of the shoulder versus the touch point? Yeah, it's above. It's above, right? So you're optimal. We want to be optimal. We want to get the most out of it we can. I don't want to come into the gym, execute reps over and over and over, and it's shit, right? Optimally speaking, if I was a 65 kilo girl with that thoracic mobility, right, not a 200 kilo idiot, shoulders under touch point as much as possible. The greater that I can enable shoulders under touch point, it becomes what? Decline. How much more can you bench on a decline than a flat bench? Right? But that comes down to your mobility and your want to be able to create that mobility through function. Cool? As you probably would have noticed as well, as his feet started early, further up the bench towards the bench, his thoracic extension is now greater, so his touch point is different. He's now in a better and more optimal position to then able to press more weight over time, thereby using his micro from day to day, which you may have heard earlier, to get the most out of himself per session. Cool? Take it out again. Aggressive breathing. Good. Touch. Good. One more. Good boy. Rack. Talk to me about the line. What's the line of the bench press now? I got you. I got you. Right? The bench press line is now different. It's no longer this, which is an incline. It's a longer distance to travel. It's now a decline, and it's this. And it's a shorter distance to travel. Competition bench press, though. Right? This is not a hypertrophy exercise. Right? I'm trying to get the most out of a competition style bench press. Cool? Even from a sheer maths perspective, this is shorter. Right? I'm here to win every session, every competition, shorter, optimal. Cool? So what I want you to do, my little brother, position again, start up again. Good. And then when you take it out, squeeze, but I want you to hold it on your chest. Good. Good. And touch. This is a really basic thing. What's happened with his wrist, elbow, and the bar? Stacked, right? Optimal. Cool. Press. Good. So he's still pressing back, right? So touch. Good. And you're just pressing to here. Just there. And again. One more. Beautiful. Straight. Rack. Right, let's add some weight, Brando. What's your bench right now? 150. Okay, so if we went like 80 kilos, it's not going to front, yeah? You're not going to worry about it. Doesn't matter. Does that all make sense so far? Seems logical, right? It's a no-brainer. Yeah, talk to me, brother.
When he's coming off, when
Yeah.
you're in that position,
Yeah.
are you mentally thinking straight up, or are you trying to think pushing forward?
I'm actually thinking pushing away, almost down, because what's going to actually happen is you're going to find the line where you can eventually pull it out as much as you possibly can, because thoracic extension is going to enable that, right? And I'm going to be pressing through there. It's actually away and down, but it's a fine line, especially when you're doing maximum weight lifts. You need to be spot on. Yeah, my brother. 100%, 100%. The less mobility that you obviously have through that thoracic spine, the less, obviously the smaller the extension and the longer the touch point, right, to press. Cool. So let's go 5 reps. I want you to watch his hips and his feet and his actual trunk. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause it for me. Fine. Good boy, Rack. What happens with his trunk? What happens with his hips? Up. Yeah. As a competitive lifter, we can't have that, right? So then, logically thinking, where does our tension need to drive? Back up the bench, right? So, instead of driving your feet through the floor, right, you're driving your feet away in order to push yourself up the bench. Because now you have greater extension, the touch points are now your glutes and your upper trap. And we push the bar away. Does that make sense? Yeah. If you can't get that extension, yeah, 100%. As far as obviously pushing the bar, pushing the body up, most definitely. But obviously we then sacrifice the range of motion from the extension. And look, there are going to be people like that. There are people with long trunks and things like that. They're not going to be able to create extension. There's injuries and things like that as well. And I understand that. Cool? Cool? Okay. Let's go 100. If he needs, lift out for 100. You need a rest? You sure?
Yeah.
Cool. Whenever you're ready. Well, there's 2.5 missing.
Yeah.
Good. So planting your shoulders. Yeah. Good. Over, over, over. Pull over. Good. Squeeze. Good. 2 more. Just here. Just on the other side of that. Just here. Wonderful. Touch. Beautiful. See the difference? It's now shorter. Right? Optimal. Right? So then, from a programming perspective, you right with that, Lil? Is that okay? So then, from a programming perspective, I'm really sorry for the women in this room, but from a programming perspective, this is where my dick gets hard. How do we change our programming, our exercise selection now that we have a completely different bench press in order to maximize our sessions by using our micro to be the best that we can be every day? So we need obviously the competition style bench press, right? That's the exercise, we need that, right? So let's just say we're gonna do, I don't know, 5 by 5. Okay? That's in for day 1. Where do you fail your bench press? Off the chest. So where does off the chest strength come from? Coaches? Lats. Cool. So then that's my priority, right? If I'm failing the bench off the chest, what's my primary secondary exercise towards that? So then the challenge that I have for you, right, is how does that directly link in with the bench press? It does, but it doesn't. So then the question is, how do I do this and leverage the exposure to the weakness as my secondary exercise? Anyone? Coaches? Boys? You can jump in anytime you want. If I'm failing off the chest, what's another bench exercise I could do? I love Nick. Pause bench. Right? What else could we use? Not slingshot. Tempo. Cool. What if we're now in a position where we're in an off season and I need the frequency to be able to refine technique? Okay. Dufflo bar will work as well, right? But now we're in a position where we need to bench multiple times a week, okay? So what if I'm going Monday, comp bench, Wednesday, comp bench, Friday, comp bench. Is that okay, Lil? So I want to maximize my weakness, yeah? Pause bench, tempo, one more. You said Dufflo. Cool.
Would you keep the comp bench day in there specifically without any variables to keep the skill of that movement, or would you just fuck the variables?
I would say, wouldn't you become more skilled if you did the exercise more often? Ergo the frequency. Obviously then from a programming perspective, we need to then accommodate for a percentage-wise of whatever intensity. Yeah? Cool. Day 1, pause bench, right? That's our supplementary exercise. That's the exercise we've chose specifically for his weakness. What are then the exercises that make that exercise better? Cool. What sort of row? Chest supported row. What are the exercises that make the chest supported row better? I would say yeah, whoever said seal row. So yeah, seal row. But the problem is, right, is that the accumulated fatigue of a seal row versus and a chest supported row on the same day might be too much, right? So then with that knowledge, right, as far as programming is concerned, and you're right, what would I do within the seal row? My man. What's something else that doesn't have the same accumulated fatigue? How is that going to positively affect my seal row, my chest supported row? So even things like small things like that pull down, right? Real simple with a close grip because obviously this is a pullover movement. so on and so on, right? What are the exercises that work for seal rows? So on and so on, yeah? What if then the intensity for that day is so low? Let's say we're benching 3 times a week, right? And we're working between 45 and 55, right? The accumulated fatigue on your CNS is not as bad, right? We're still in a high motor skill position, right? But he also needs to work on not create an imbalance, right? How did we then select exercises to enhance the duck flow press, duck flow bar bench press?
Do you guys have like a dumbbell bench? Usually bigger range of motion.
What are the exercises then that would help our dumbbell bench? Probably too chesty, and it would probably come down somewhere here. Yeah? And so on, and so on, and so on. Now, it's as simple as I like to fluctuate and undulate my percentages, right? And create progression that way. I've just built you macrocycle in like 5 minutes, right? And it's catered directly towards your weakness, right? The question is then, how do you then structure the squats and deadlifts around that? Because that's the meat and potatoes of our total, right? What do we need to consider? Fatigue. Injury, right? Percentages. Your fucking micro. Yeah, man. 100%. You might find yourself as a coach that you're in positions where you're coaching people who are obviously time constrained, right? They don't have the time to be able to put in 6 sessions a week or 5 sessions a week. Cool, right? Same thing goes, right? You're still structuring your programming around the same principle, right? What's my weakness in the squat? What's my weakness in that? And then building a list of exercises to then draw from and periodize over time to be able to make yourself better, right? And then it's specific for you. And it's not wishy-washy shit. It's just knowing the exercise. Cool? Questions, coaches? Challenge me, coaches? That's definitely something that I've used with Brandon in the past. Yeah. So that may be, so like, let's say for example, right? Yeah. So I'll use Brando as the example, yeah? I use a lot of pre-fatigue with his programming. Why would you pre-fatigue something like a dumbbell press? Anyone but Brando. Yeah, brother? I'm forcing you to adapt whilst fatigued and still perform a high motor skill under fatigue, which is what competition is about. You bench after you squat a lot of weight. I need to condition you to be in a position where you can still function at a high level to be able to execute those lifts at 100 out of 100 intensity, right? And be absolutely perfect. What did you want? Someone over here had their hand up as well. Something similar? Cool. So then the dumbbells are pre-fatigue. Noting that I'm pre-fatigued, where do I go from there if the weakness is still the same? It's the same as before, right? But now my intensity is different, right? Instead of say, let's just work off an RPE scale, just to make it simple, right? If we were working, because now we're pre-fatigued, right? This now needs to be, as opposed to a 10, this needs to be at an 8, right? In a different rep range. Because you will not recover. You'll find yourself feeling okay, and then as soon as you hit the wall and you're like, man, I'm fucked, my biceps are fucked, my pecs are not good, whatever it may be, it's way too late. It's already probably a week too late. So you need to catch yourself early and understand where your fatigue is going before it hits you and it's too late and it creates detriment to your training cycle. How would you do that though? How would you catch fatigue? Track your fucking macros. If my resting heart rate goes up for no reason, I've pushed the envelope too far. I normally sit at a 64. I've 64 average resting heart rate. If my heart rate goes up 5 to 7 beats for no reason, something is wrong. I pushed too hard. If it goes, let's just say you're at 70, right? And for whatever reason, you've woken up the next day, your average resting heart rate is now 80, what's happened? Yeah, right. Inflammation, which is what the gentleman was talking about before, overtraining, whatever it is, poor sleep will actually affect that as well. All those sort of things. You actually might be starting to get sick because you've actually pushed yourself too far, right? Your body's fighting something. Question, Brooksy? Yep. Yep. I would say if you didn't do that, if you didn't have that line of communication with your coach, right, they don't care, right, and they don't care about getting the most out of Michael Brook. Have that conversation with all your micro, whenever it is, however it is that you have your check-ins, right? Always, always, always. Because the reality is when you're in a deload, all the micros will be out of whack because you've pushed yourself so far, unless you've caught it early, right? If my blood glucose is above 5, I've done something wrong. I've eaten too late, or my body's not partitioning nutrients correctly. My resting heart rate is up, right? My inflammation is up. My heart is working harder. Have the conversation.
The question was if you're in a deload week and say work pump and there's an external stress factor that has occurred and you notice that your micros are out of whack. The question was, do you have that conversation with the coach? And the question is fuck yes. The answer is fuck yes. Have that conversation and don't be afraid of the add to G. Don't be afraid to have that conversation out of I've got to hit this number on the program. It is much better in my opinion, and I'm sure G will agree, pull back and recover leading into a peak, not into a competition.
There are many, many ways to skin a cat. The lifters that I take on are the lifters that have done this and failed and failed and failed and failed, right? My job as my branding is that I'm an elite coach. I will get the absolute most out of you, right? Is that I will teach you that there are different ways to get from point A to point B and get the most out of yourself. But it starts with the micro. More questions around the bench press? If I was to then challenge you and say the weakness is the triceps, what would you do? The fucking opposite, right? Close grip will work, bro. Yeah. For the person, right? Spotto press. Slingshot from earlier. Sorry, was that slingshot? Yeah, slingshot from earlier, right? If you follow my Instagram, you'll see I'm doing a whole bunch of reverse bands. Things that will mimic this. Keep yourself in a position where you're stuck in your competition style exercise, and your supplementary, your secondary work exemplify that, right? With the reverse band, I'm in a comp style bench the entire time. I'm just overloading, right? It's exactly the same. So the process that I feel with the slingshot is that it kind of pulls you out of position. Yeah, it's kind of like a bench it. I can understand that there's a benefit in regards to the overload, but as far as keeping in tune with my actual comp technique, it pulls. I know for me, it pulls me out, right? So I'm trying to find things that make it easier to get the most out of myself. More questions? So then the next level of this, right, would be what? What would I do after all my strength work? Sure. My hypertrophy work, right? My hypertrophy work to do what though? Yeah, but work through these. Yeah. Sorry, my bro? Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Why do we do extra hypertrophy work? Yeah, more stimulus is definitely a good reason. Work capacity. Yeah. Think safety. Yeah. Yeah. Big muscles is a buffer, right? The bigger the muscle, the bigger the buffer that you have, the bigger the safety net. So what you'll find is if you're benching right and you don't stay tight and it comes out here, your pecs and shoulders take over, right? Yeah. So if I have small pecs and shoulders, I haven't given myself the buffer to be able to save it. And what if I needed that on the third attempt? I'm fucked. I've lost 15 kilos, 20 kilos that I needed to beat the next guy or girl. Yeah? More programming questions? Any other questions? Challenges?
I'm using myself as an example.
Yeah.
My biggest issue in bench is I need to be bigger. I need to be bigger around the joints.
Yeah.
To be in a more stable position.
Yeah.
If you drop that third bench day, or say like we know my fatigue, we do our body twice a week.
Yeah.
That second day be more beneficial, not even with comp benching or a variation, but just like we said before, movements that will increase range of motion and add hypertrophy.
Yep. You can. You can. But if we're talking, and if I've understood you correctly, if we're talking optimizing you for comp prep,
Say in an off season.
in an off season, yeah, of course. The thing is with the change in the technique that we've done for you and what I've showed for you is that the fatigue on the joints is different, right? The fatigue that you gather it's not on the pec. It shouldn't be on the pecs as much as it used to be, right? It's now in the triceps and the lats. It's a lot easier to get stronger through just the triceps and the lats than it is through the triceps, lats, pecs, shoulders. Does it make sense? We're good? Yeah? Yeah, brother? Yeah. Yeah. Wherever the line is where it's still stacked, yeah, as much as you can. I think I watched one of Brooke's videos and she doesn't have like really great thoracic extension, right? I would say the same thing. You're still touching with the elbow is stacked and it's at 90-degree angle, right? And you're pushing away as best as you can. But now we're in a position where we need the buffer, right? Because we don't have the extension. So the shoulder isn't underneath the touch point, it's actually further away, right? So now we're more vulnerable. So I need the hypertrophy work combined with the strength work to obviously buffer the other muscles, right, to get the most out of her. Anything else? Any questions? More challenges? I like these challenges. You have to forgive me for leaning over, my back's cooked. Yeah, bro. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and their capacity to get more volume in
yeah,
is much higher.
yeah,
Has that been
100%. Yeah, yeah. Threshold though, what I would shoot is, and from the information that I've gathered and been given from particularly a lot of bodybuilders at the moment, is that their optimization of nutrients is sitting around that sort of between 12 to 15%. That's optimal for them in regards to partitioning, right? So the more food, the better the sleep, all those sort of things all come into your macros to be able to recover better. Anything above, generally, that sort of 15 to 16% is probably not as optimal.
Yeah, right. So like, and this is a personalised example for being selfish for myself, I guess. If you were training at 8.5%, you're not getting as good a result as if you were training at 12, 13%.
Probably, yeah. There would be definitely some,
Especially in this joint, especially in this sport.
yeah.
This sport requires that extra buffer around the joint, the shoulders, the hips, to find that more mass, a bit more body weight on
It'll
it.
change your leverages as well.
To make you just feel more supported. It's like if anyone's ever done a weight cut into a comp, try to get under a bar and they rehydrate, a little bit more fluid around the joint, a little bit more weight, they just feel better. And that's how I would feel it that way.
But you're right. The answer is you're right. Around that 15%. No, obviously not. It's up around the 20%, which is more logical for them. More challenges? We're good?
Good.
Questions? Doc? You good, my bro? All right.
Doc's got too much muscle around.
Yeah, Doc's too big now. If there is anything about it that pops up, just DM me. I will answer. Unless it's Lily, because I'm not helping Lily.
Called him Gunny.
Cool? Swig some water, take a quick break, stand up, stand around. I'm not going to make you do the ballet again, and we'll deadlift.
5 minutes, guys.
Who is a conventional puller that would like to be the model?
Sam,
Anyone, Brooke?
Sam or Brooke?
Cool. What's your best pull?
240.
Cool. We'll just load a plate. Sorry, brother, got it. Nah. Do you need a collar? That was me being trying to be funny. Failed. Cool. Show me 2 reps of your deadlift. Cool. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. How do you guys teach, coach? Where do you start with your deadlift coaching?
Position over the foot.
Yeah, bar position over the foot. What about contact? What about contact? Anyone other than Brandon? Sorry, darling? What about contact of your feet? I should have been clearer. Sorry, bro? Yeah, so contact being 3 points of contact, big toe, little toe, wedge, whatever you want to call it, heel. Yeah? So that's where it starts. So if you just walk up to the bar for me, just in your normal stance, and I want you to exaggerate the big toe, little toe, heel. Just push it into the ground, yeah? Cool. Next stage, what do we do from there? It can be you, yeah. Hands on bar, cool. Hands on bar, where? Cool. Hands outside your hips. Cool. Cool. And I'll ask you to just get into position to pull. And then just hold for 3 seconds, brace, and then relax. And then relax. Cool. Again, we're talking optimal, yeah? I want to get the most out of my body to move the bar from point A to point B with as little effort as possible, with as little fatigue as possible, with the most amount of weight on it. Talk to me about the position of your tib, fib, and femur. Anyone? Anyone other than Brandon? Sorry, my bro, what? Kinda, yeah. Stacking everything would be one way to put it, but I'm after a particular term in regards to tib fib. So what I'm trying to do is, right, with the prehab work that you should be doing around glutes and adductors and your lower back and things like that, right, I'm trying to create tension through my hips, through my glutes, so that I can be in position to, when I pull the bar, in the best position available to create vertical shin angle of my tib fib. If, turn for me, bro, right? If the angle of the tib fib is forward, so just shift your weight to your toes and let your knees go forward, right? From a recruitment perspective, what's working? Quad. What are we trying to do? You can relax. What are we trying to do in the sport? Use as much muscle as we possibly have on our body to move the bar from point A to point B. If my knees are forward, right, is that optimal? No, right? Is that going to work for everyone? Can everyone get into that position? No. Cool. But that is what we're fighting for. Cool. So what I would ask for you is to approach the bar the same way with your feet, right? I want you to exaggerate the outside pronation of the foot, right? And allow the knee to torque out slightly and drive your heels in. Good, pull a little closer. There you go, good boy. Now hinge back, sit back, sit back. See how he's shaking? And now pull. Beautiful, and down. One more again. Good. What did you notice different about the line? Anyone other than Brandon? My man. Someone else got it. Yeah, straight up and down. Right, what did we learn about the bench press? Straight up and down is a shorter distance. That's optimal, right? I need to take advantage of my leverages to be able to move the bar from point A to point B. Cool? Right, but I need to be able to get into that position. Cool. Give me 2 more reps, please. Pull the bar a little, so relax. Pull the bar a little closer. There we go. Open your, push your knees out. There you go. Good, a little bit more. It's a little harder now, huh? A little closer. My man. Open. Good boy. Wonderful, that was the one. So now the bar path is now shorter, right? The next question is what really is a deadlift? Is it a pull or a press? It's both. It's both. Yeah, it's both. What is the most vulnerable part of the anatomy that's when we deadlift? Low back, right? So how do I create, thank you. So how do I create optimization of my hips? That's the secondary effect, yeah? But the flow on of that around here. How do I keep this safe? How do I keep this functional? How do I keep this strong? Shut up, Brandon. What am I doing with my hips though? Internally rotating the hip, yeah? Right, I want to internally rotate. If I'm in, you can relax my bro. If I'm in extension, there's a break in the chain, right? The way I teach squats is with a couple little cues that'll make you a little bit better off the bat, optimal off the bat. It's chin, it's internal rotation, your abs and glutes are on now by default. And I'm creating torque with my feet. Same sort of thing, right? So when you wedge yourself in the bar, and it's the same for a sumo, for our sumo pullers, right? I'm trying to internally rotate the hip and switch my hips on and glutes on. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Do you do it at the top of the lift or once you're down?
No, if you can functionally do it at the top of the lift and wedge yourself into position with a vertical shin angle, then I would say, yeah, go for it. And good for you that you have that proprioception. Yeah. One more for me. Just lift your chest a little bit more. Good boy. Yeah? Where is that? Where do you feel that?
Where I feel it,
Yeah.
more on my legs.
Cool?
Is that the right answer?
Yeah, it was the right answer. You'll get your 20 bucks after. Yeah? Cool. What were you saying before about the laps? Oh, it's not a dumb question. I'm an idiot. Yep. So I would do this in my underwear, but I wouldn't do that to you. But right, and I wouldn't do it in anyone else's underwear. If this is normal for me, right, I normally sit in extension of so my spine and my butt is out, right. So if you watch my lower back, I'm in extension. I'm lazy and I've got a gut, so I put myself in that position over time. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to wedge and internally rotate my hips up, right? So all that pelvic floor stuff, up. So I'm trying to twerk.
Posterior tilt. Can you do that again on a boomerang?
So that lumbar extension after your lower back injuries. So what you and Mason were working on with your zerches and things like that to pull, get the pelvis working, that lower abdomen working, and the glutes as well to pull you back in that neutral hip position. So you sit here instead of that lumbar extension.
Correct.
But not too far.
But not where?
Yes.
Exactly. So you've gone too far into flexion, right? And you've created that problem, right? It's now yeah. Cool. With the wedge? Yeah. Yeah. That's where I was going with the lats. Yeah.
When you say internal rotation of the hip,
Yep.
are you talking the femur meeting the hip socket?
Yep.
So when you say wedge and going through yesterday, we spoke about turning the quads away.
Yep.
Is that not creating external rotation at the hip?
It probably is minutely though, right? But it's easier I've found it's easier to teach lifters who don't have the same level of anatomy to be able to just internal rotate and then sit back that way and fight for position.
Easy to, instead of trying to say internally rotate.
Lift your hips up. Lift your hips up. Lift your hips up. Yeah? I don't want to twerk again.
Stability.
Yeah, to really create torque through your femur. Right, same thing when you squat. And you have to fight for position. Ah, you heard that? Yeah? That sounds like someone who squatted 1,000 twice. Right, broken.
How much did you squat?
1,000. Pounds, unfortunately. Lost my train of thought. Does that all make sense so far? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, cool. Yeah. For you doctors. Yeah. Yeah. No. It's out. Yeah. Cool. Not silly. That's okay. No, you're going to have to force them out. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that cue that you may have heard from either myself or Andy, you turn the quads away. Turning the quads away to create that external rotation, especially in the squat. Turn the quads away to create that rotation, but also I found that it gets that hip, the glute working more, so you can pull under. But again, you're not going too far,
Yeah.
not overdoing it.
Yeah.
If you do that, you need one run.
Yeah.
And, sorry,
No.
watching. So when he's standing in this position up, like his arms are right and his knees there,
Mhm.
would you
So the closest that you can have your arms to your body is now the shortest distance you're going to have to pull the bar.
Can I add something onto that? Sorry, that's sort of in a thing. When you were, it's not advantaging me at all, but when he got down and he was pushing his knees outwards, I actually noticed that he flexed his arms a little bit and kept that flexed a little bit.
Mhm.
Is that not something
The flex of the bicep, maybe a little bit, right? But we're at 80, 70 kilos at the moment. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Yeah, I would say yes. Probably not. I would ask him to have the mobility to not be in that position, obviously, right? Because that's going to compromise the bicep at the higher percentages, 100%. Any more questions around that so far?
If there was a shift, probably my hip mobility is not great, but I can shift my stance a little bit more.
Yeah, just to find that position, probably. Yeah, it's hard because when you internally rotate that hip like that, you may have that cue with someone and they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to switch their glutes on, right? So therein lies the time that you need to put in as a lifter, as a coach, around their prehab to be able to create proprioception, what we were talking about with your good mornings, right? You need time. It's going to take time. Yeah. Cool. That's fine, yeah. Yeah. Cool so far? So let's go back to where we were. We want to, from there, we're pulling the lats down, pulling the shoulders down and flexing through the lats. Wedging, good. 2 more. Just open a little more. Just open a little more. Good. Pull. That's the one. Cool. So back is on, wedged in. We've created torque through the leg and the chain, right? Our stability is there through our feet, right? Now, if we're talking, when we're talking weakness, because it's a really common thing, we've had this conversation many, many times with Brandon, right? Through my experience in S&C and powerlifting coaching, the majority of the lifters, I don't know why, but it seems to always be in the female group. So take whatever you can from this right now, right? We find ourselves, particularly female lifters, is that they either let the bar go at the bottom and they just give up, right? It's too heavy, right? Or they fail the top. So they fail at the top, right? From a conventional perspective though, you're a little bit different, right? We put ourselves at a disadvantage, right? With the timing of the execution of the lift, right? So pull 2 reps for me. Good. Good. So what I would ask you now is to pull 2 reps and changing your timing. So as the bar approaches your knees, pull your knees back and then push your hips through and lock your knees first. Even if it's a little slower, if you want to slow it down. So knees, hips. One more. Knees, hips. How much shorter was that movement now? Optimal. As much as we can. Yeah? We want to be able to get to a competition lift, be fatigued, and be able to squeeze out a couple of extra percent if need be, because I'm more technically sound than the next person. And I can squeeze that out because my timing is better. Knees, hips. For the female coaches, you might find that. Do you want to just pick the bar up for me? Push your knees forward slightly. Your knee, there you go. For the female coaches, you might find women get stuck in that position all the time. right? It may be a glute problem, right? It may be a glute weakness or a proprioception issue, right? But ultimately, it's a timing issue. Relax. It's a timing issue. Put yourself in the position to be able to get your hips through, right? Because if you need to execute at 100 out of 100 effort, right? And I get stuck there, you're gonna get red lighted. But if my timing is knees first, then my hips through, I'll be able to squeeze my hips through. And that's all it is there. As opposed to this, I'm fucked. Right? Lift's done. The what, sorry? Did it? Yeah. Yeah. Hold on a second. Okay. What? That's what I'm doing.
Oh, do you want to just pick up and come out?
Fucking hell. Fucking hell.
Show us the difference, like
Of course.
hips first.
Yeah.
And
Very demanding. How I've taught you, with the knees, then the hips? Is that what you're asking me?
yeah, so
Just pull how you'd normally pull, just 2 reps. Stabilize your feet though. Yep. Now knees first. One more. A little earlier. There you go. Make sense?
more controls at that top bit too, rather
Yeah, which is where weakness in the glutes would obviously occur. Right? So then if we were to piggyback that off, thank you, bro. If we were to piggyback off what we were doing before, if we were to piggyback off the programming before, how would you then program the deadlift? Cool. Let's say it's your contemporary weakness for the hips, and it's not a timing thing. What are we going to do accessory-wise, supplementary work-wise, to work on that weakness? Shut up, Brandon. Yeah. What's going to help RDLs? What's going to help good mornings? Buffer now, yeah? That's a lot. Buffer now. Single leg. That sort of stuff. Yeah? What's the problem with this? Where's an issue here? Sorry, Don? It will load the lower back, but as far as fatigue is concerned, dig deeper, dig deeper. Sorry, my brother. No push. You don't necessarily need a push right now, right? Yeah. Assumingly though, you're going to do enough here. more on what you're saying. This,
That being the secondary muscle in the deadlift to stabilize the hip and the spine.
yep,
We need that position because that's going to dictate our starting position. We need all that fluff and strength.
yep. Where would you put it?
I'd put it maybe after the leg curl.
Okay. Where else?
Throughout the week.
Yeah.
On a bench day.
I just picked there, so tell me if you don't want to put it there.
No, I'd put it there. I'd make that first bench day, that comp bench. What did that say?
Lat.
I would have said that too. Depending overall who the person is, like, I think that's, and obviously what we've done previously, I wouldn't put any more than that.
Yeah. Why?
Fatigue,
Yeah.
still fatigue.
So
everything.
this here is important. How am I going to periodize that and take into consideration the accumulated fatigue of that, and all this? So now the value of this decreases because I'm now having to do that at a higher frequency at a lesser intensity. Unless I put it here. Yeah? But then that's going to come off this. So you need to keep that into consideration. Yeah? As far as sets is concerned, what would be optimal? How would you then tackle that problem? How many sets to give someone?
I think it comes down to training age.
Yep, training age will determine that. But as far as the program is concerned?
Maximum recoverable volume.
Yep,
Minimum effective dose.
yep,
Spread it over the week, see, measure the micro.
yep.
What are they recovering to? What are they not recovering to?
How I work that out is here. Right? How many squats am I doing over the week that I can recover from, or she can recover from, in order to make this as optimal as possible? And then undulating around that. Right? It starts from here. How many sets do you find of deadlifts do you find that you can recover from compared to a squat? Yeah. Let's say both lifts are going hard. You're going hard in both. Yeah. 2 maybe? Yeah, it will. But as far as that structure is concerned? Less.
Way less.
Always less.
Can I give an example?
Sure.
So the first prep I did with G was in sleeves, so the load on my back with the squat wasn't as high. My deadlift percentage and intensity was a lot higher. We were able to get more sets out because the load on my back earlier in the week wasn't as taxing. When we went back into wraps, obviously the intensity was up, the volume was up because I was back in wraps. My deadlift fell way behind in what I thought it fell way behind throughout the program. So in that first prep we finished on a 255 double and pulled 272 in comp. In the second prep with wraps on me, I pulled 275 and I finished on a 222 and a half double in that program. So it was a 30 kilo give and take between the squat and deadlift.
Magic, right? Like a magician.
Number self.
Yeah. Better than Lily.
He's jealous that you're an active famous or more famous than
No.
him.
She shouldn't have started shit that she couldn't finish shit. Any other questions? Challenges? Challenge me, because then we're going to go into sumo. Boys, anything? All makes sense? Simple? Yeah?
Would you mitigate so myself need that
Do you need time? Do you need to warm up? He did just drive 3 hours. Just hold it there for me, bro. So what do we notice? Sam's a strength coach, so I'm expecting his position to be really good. Yeah? What do you notice about the shin?
More vertical.
Vertical, right? Same thing, optimal. Cool, pull. Good. Can you do 2 more for me eventually? In time. Good. Knees, hips, yep. Knees, then hips. So lock your knees, then push your hips through. Just slightly, just exaggerate a little bit for me. Yeah, maybe not flat back, but you get the idea. Yeah, same sort of thing, right? Where do you find that sumo pullers get stuck? Top. Can you get yourself out of trouble if you're stuck with your knees forward? No. So then the cue needs to be knees first, then hips. You made that really easy because he has a nice position. I wish you pulled like shit, but you actually pull really nice. I know Tabitha pulls sumo, and we've had the conversation yesterday around her accessory work. But is there any questions around, particularly from the coaches, around how to pull sumo and how to optimize their sumo?
On a foot position,
Yep.
you want to stack under the knee.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, no wider.
I know it
I know it depends, but like
yeah.
the advantage being
Shorter distance.
shorter distance, but also power production, force production.
Yeah.
Sorry, force production is more efficient.
Obviously, you don't want to put them in a position where they're vulnerable and the adductor and groin is out like that. I think if you're stacked, you're in the best position you probably could be. Yeah.
Do you mind if I get Ash to jump in?
Please.
Ash, full sumo.
He hasn't got his loafers on though.
Wonderful. From a starting hip, from the starting position in regards to the hip, what are we looking for? How can we shorten the range? Upright, yep. The closer you get your hips to the bar, the shorter the range. It becomes now a push straight up, as opposed to a pull. If you watch fucking Russian cunt I competed against. Yeah, same thing. You look at Steffi pull, she's the same. She can get her hips close, right? So now it just becomes a vertical push as opposed to necessarily a pull. So then programming, exercise selection around that needs to be adjusted as well.
And if someone can't get their hips closer to the bar,
If the length of the femur is not allowing them to get to the hips to the bar and they can't pull conventional, then you're kind of stuck with it, right? But what you're trying to do is teach them the timing issue to be able to get them in the right position from the beginning to transition equally to the end, right? And then building programming around that, because what's probably going to happen is that there's going to be weakness to the hips. I would say consideration around the lower back as well, because I think over time there may create problems. Just vulnerability.
Do you believe the glute plays a more important role now in the sumo deadlift as opposed to relatively conventional deadlift because we're going from an upright position? We don't have in that hinge, the lats obviously helping to stabilize as much.
Yep.
So the glute becomes.
You don't need it. Yeah. Yeah.
So more glute to stop us from doing tucking under.
Yeah. I would still obviously fight for neutral spine and optimal hip position, right? Because we're about optimal, right? And now we can just press from there and be in the safest position that we can.
So I guess my question is there too far with hips under?
Yeah, flexion. Questions?
The bigger guys getting down to the bar.
Yep.
How do they navigate this? No offense. You feel back?
In what way? Yep, you're going to have to move your feet out, hands out, which then you're now pulling it further.
But that's the compromise.
Yeah, we'll lose weight. Hi.
You're doing it.
I am. But then the same thing flow and effect, right? Your programming needs to change.
Do you still prioritize in the sumo, like as much as we did in the conventional?
I would still do a similar sort of amount, 100%. Cool. What if the leg strength was an issue with the pull, whether it's conventional or sumo?
So your leg strength, limiting factor. Yeah, say that louder. Get stronger legs.
Yeah, how would I get stronger legs? Someone said leg press and pushing before, right? Or a deficit, yeah. What is that? It's heckling me from the back? The fuck? Questions? Challenges? I've seen it used as an accessory exercise. My question then is to why the cumulative fatigue around that is probably not optimal. Why are you doing things that you're not going to compete in, and you're digging a hole of fatigue? They're probably better if you're looking to. Look, it comes down to why you're choosing them in the first place. If it's for hip strength and things like that, or just if it's you're trying to build hip strength or whatever it is, right? There are better options. Anything more? No? Good? Always ask questions. If there are any more and you're too shy, just DM me. Ask Brandon. Brandon will ask me anyway. Ask me. Cool? Thank you.
Big thank you to G for coming up, but also spending the last 3 hours talking to us.
Fuck. It's now 10 grand.